Hi, I'm Joe Sorge, and welcome to the Family Law Report, where we examine the problems and challenges facing our family law system. This is part 2 of our interview with Andy Ostrowski, Democratic candidate for United States Congress in Pennsylvania's 11th District. In the second interview, we examine the factors that lead to apathy, callousness, and corruption within our court system. So, Andy, are judges elected in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, all judges in Pennsylvania are elected.
Are they allowed to accept campaign contributions from lawyers?
Yeah, and you know what? Honestly, Joe, that was an issue that growing up as a lawyer, I would be in law firms and elections would come up and a lawyer would say, well, I give to all the candidates because I never know who I'm going to go in front of. And as a lawyer, it never really occurred to me of how corrupt that possibly is.
That's really interesting. I think you just gave us some important insight into the culture of our legal system. They don't even appreciate the fact that the lawyers are essentially buying favoritism.
You know, you want to, as a professional, as a lawyer who honors his profession and honors his license, which I consider myself to always have done, you think that your own discretion and judgment can supersede those kind of influences.
Lawyers and judges think they can somehow rise above human nature and control their subconscious mind.
The corrupting influence of money, if it's not overt and on the surface in these, it rears its head in other ways in the system.
And that's not fair to the average citizen. If we look at the United States Code of Conduct for Judges, the very first canon, the very first one says, an independent and honorable judiciary is indispensable to justice in our society. Well, are judges who take money from lawyers who appear in their courtrooms truly independent? Are judges whose spouses are given jobs by friendly law firms truly honorable?
I agree, and maybe we need this time in this country to start looking at things like publicly funded campaigns and things of that nature. But yeah, you're right. Running raising money and trying to be fair on the bench. There's something that smacks kind of corrupt about that. I agree.
What about pro tem judges who hear a case being presented by a lawyer who works at the same law firm? Or retired judges who hear cases from the law firm that pay their salary?
Yeah, and that I agree with you there. And I know, and honestly, Joe, a lot of this, when I hear a lot of these questions, I realized, for lack of a better term, of how kind of brainwashed I was by the system. Because I knew that went on, but I just always trusted that people had good judgment and discretion. But that is the very reason why these law firms hire these judges. It's so that they can get better treatment in the courts. So yeah, that's a real problem.
Well, I'm really glad you acknowledged that there may have been a time when you may not have recognized this problem. And I don't bring that up to criticize you because I think you're one of the good guys. I bring it up to make a point to the practicing lawyers and judges out there that their culture of manufactured honor and false respect is really a cover-up for deep dysfunction and cronyism. A recent Gallup poll found that only 10% of Americans have a great deal of trust and confidence in the government's judicial branch. That's a third of what it was 15 years ago. What's your experience with how the general public is treated in the courtroom?
You go into a courtroom, and generally all you see are a couple sheriffs wearing uniforms, some court staff, a judge sitting on the bench, and a couple lawyers there. And when common citizens come in, the judge will leer over the bench and look at who's coming in, and the sheriffs will look you up and down as if they're questioning what you're doing there. They make you feel uncomfortable. I had a situation not long ago. When I went into court, I had a staff person come up to me and ask me who I was. They had no right or no business knowing who I was, why I was there, or anything about me. But they came up and asked me my name. And I said, I don't have to give you my name. I said, I'm going to give you my name because that's the kind of person that I am, because I don't want to offend anybody. But you have no right to do that. And even when I did that, Joe, the sheriff started posturing, and the court staff starts leering at you. And this is a real intimidation problem that we have in this country, and it's a terrible thing.
And I've heard the intimidation is worse in family court. What do you think?
In the domestic relations area, there's where the problems are, because that's when you get people wanting to play power games and control games over an ex-spouse and be vindictive and hateful and play out personal agendas. I mean, that's really open to the abuse in this system. And then the lawyers in the system, will encourage people to, rather than the lawyer taking the high road and counseling a client to, be reasonable and moral and principled about these things, the lawyers are driven by greed. And they'll do anything that a client wants to pay for. And that's, more so honestly in family law than in any other area that I've been familiar with. We got to come up with a whole different system than what we have. And in your movie, that stuff about the system that they have over in the Scandinavian country, Norway or Sweden or whichever one it was, that was pretty good stuff. That was pretty compelling, and we need that kind of wholesale changes. The family courts don't fit the traditional adversarial model of litigation, and that's the problem that you were really pointing out in your film, and very well done in that regard as well.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the compliment. And I wish you luck in November. If I were a Pennsylvania resident, I'd vote for you.
Thank you very much. It means the world to me, and I will always support everything that you do and everything that you stand for.
Well, thank you very much. Well, there you have it. An attorney and potential U.S. Congressman Andy Ostrowski speaking out about the problems in our judicial system. I'm Joe Sorge, and this is the Family Law Report. Thank you.